evening, one and all, and welcome to the first ordinary meeting of the 171st session of the Queen's University of Belfast Literary and Scientific Society. I've missed this weekly madness. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, so I know there's a few fresh faces here, I'm Matthew Bradley, I'm the president. That means I'll be chairing all of these meetings, I'll be organising certain things, and I will be trying to make you laugh at the front each week, possibly succeeding, who knows. So first, I've got some announcements before I talk about what exactly is going on. Firstly, you may notice this microphone in the corner. This is Luke Holmes, he's our tech officer. He records the debates, so for GDPR's sake, these debates are being recorded. They're also being written in minute form by Chloe, which you will see later. For those of you who are new, next week is our freshest debate, which is This House Believes the Muggles Are Better Off, which is like a Harry Potter themed debate to just get us started for the year. And we will be at the Freshers Fair, so look out for our stall. We're not taking sign-ups this week, we'll be taking sign-ups next week. Membership is £5, and that gives you access to like training workshops, our annual formal, any like special events we hold. We'll be holding a Storm and Mixer in October, I believe very early October, so, you know, get excited for that. I also want to say follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's always at QUB Letterific. There's some really great stuff coming up there, including a poll, which we will probably talk about a bit later, which is good fun. So, I've created little cue cards, and I've realised I've made the font really, really small. So, yes.
Is it Comic Sans?
It's not Comic Sans. I wasn't right. On the topic of Comic Sans, I know I'm diverting a bit, but how many of you are regularly in the computer science building? Okay, a couple. Go to the foyer. Go to the foyer. There are some leaflets, and the first thing I saw in this leaflet was a small picture of minions, an arrow pointing left saying right, an arrow pointing towards the minions saying wrong. The entire thing was in Comic Sans, and they're looking for children aged 7, 8, 10, 11 and 12. God knows about 9-year-olds, just forgot about them, and it confused me for a solid hour. So without further ado, we talked a bit about minutes, so I'd like to welcome up Ms. Chloe Ferguson to read the minutes of our previous debate, This House Will Create an EU Superstate.
So for the freshers here, I'm Chloe, I'm the secretary here, so I basically do the admin, I run our social media accounts, and basically I do minutes every week, so it's kind of like a recap. But don't worry, because you weren't here last time, because it was in April, and no one here is going to remember what happened in April. So yeah, so let's get started. Right. So on Thursday the 4th of April 2019, 38 members of the Letterific that had survived until that point of the year gathered on the 3-day outside of the Senate room. Venture to the great unknown, up to the quad, to the great hall, to debate with motion. This house would create an EU superstate. Brexit. It was a thing then, it's a thing now. May we never rest in peace. President Hugh opened the 25th and final meeting of the 170th session by finding what could only be described as something when listening back to the recording, and declared, this surface does not work. Now, I don't know about you, but April, that was ages ago. And with the glory that exam season brought, I can't 100% trust that was the gavel in which he was banging. After a very brief round of announcements, Secretary Matthew Bradley, KHLN, left up out of his seat with joy that can only be described to a child of Christmas morning to give his final set of minutes. Can I get an aw? Aww. Yes. Well, I mean, you're not ready for Mario, so and he jumped up with the usual, hey, do you want to hear some minutes for one final time? Do you want to hear some minutes? For one final time, if that isn't indicative of how Matthew thinks I'm going to do this year, President Hugh Dalton proceeded to take his place at the front and launch into a delightful yet unexpected rendition of My Way, beginning with, and now the end is near, and I face the final curtain. We are still to decipher whether this was a metaphor for Hugh's presidency coming to an end, or a metaphor for our livelihoods when we are just left with the usefulness which comes from our humanity degrees, or debate. Midway through, he introduced the man himself, President Matthew Bradley, serenading him as he walked up the aisle, placing the gown on him, over like a corpse in a morgue. He took a seat and Matthew posed a question to the members. If he's up there, then who's going to take the minutes? Well, strap yourselves in, buckaroos, because we're indeed yeered over to me. I know, I'm going to say we, like, we're still the same people from last year, guys. And with your new President Secretary due for the year set up, we launched into an adventure we are sure we'll learn to regret. President Matthew Bradley opened up the floor to private members' business. The section where if you have a thought on Brexit, we have definitely, without a doubt, 100% heard it. Mr. Matthew Sullivan, HLM, eagerly shot up his hands and off we went. He explained to the House that at the time a video had just circulated around social media of a number of men in the British Army taking target practice in an image of Jeremy Corbyn. He then went on to pose the question to the House whether this was an example of how the prop against Jezza had gone completely too far or if it was a completely reasonable response. Mr. Russell Nairn then brought forward, it was very interesting that they were making this effort specifically because it wasn't a proportionally sized image of Jeremy Corbyn, and if they were confronted with the man himself, they simply wouldn't know what to do. They just missed. The House... No, let that one sink in. That actually happened. The House then moved its attention to Mr. Jake Kieran, in our memory, who proposed a self-described radical concept, anime is for nerds. This garnered the most attention in the room, as apparently, according to Mr. Conor McArdle, the Good Friday Agreement doesn't matter about anime, and I had my back to Conor at the time, but I kind of just imagined him ending it on like that. Mr. Conor Jonathan then went on to be fined as Bradley went to do it. We returned to the recording to hear the pleasurable noise of the something hitting the table over and over again with President Matthew in quite an exasperated tone saying, "Wake, wake, wake." That was literally how it was in the recording. Other cases were also heard from Mr. Tom McGuinness and Mr. Zach Scott. In a brief intermission to calm the nerves, Mr. Matthew Bradley announced that we were so lucky to have our very own Matthew Bryson, who has worked on interpret dance the entire week, which will explain under a lot of pressure. That could only be described as something that everyone in the room wanted to forget, but probably never will. And with that, we officially launched the tone for the year and moved on to President's questions. This opened up with Chris, beautiful boy Hubble, asking, "Why are you such a genius?" Matthew proceeded to run down the aisle and hand him money. Two totally unrelated effects. Mr. Conor O'Mahony asked the age-old question, "What did you have for breakfast?" And with curses and shames, I think we can now officially say that's a dead meme that no one wants to resurrect.
Here.
Thank you. Other pressing questions were heard from Mr. Matthew Sullivan, HLM, Mr. Calvin Black, HLM, Mr. Shay Glasgow, HLM, Mr. Matthew Bryson, Mr. Mark Gilmore, Mr. Conor McAuliffe, and Mr. Hugh Dobbin. With the vote of prior opinion was taken on the motion, this House would create an EU superstate with 12 votes for the proposition, 19 votes for the opposition, and 9 votes for the abstentions. Maiden Speaker Mr. Niall Heron made his debut as first speaker for the proposition by setting a few parameters. He expected the opposition to make this about national sovereignty or Brexit, but stated the debate goes beyond this, looking at the benefits of the EU project and due to the previous successes, why we should strive towards a closer union. Mr. Niall Heron explained to the House that the European project is underpinned by 3 main pillars, the first of which are shared and projected values, grounding democracy, arguing the EU fought for the quality of life over the assimilation of wealth. The second pillar is the commitment to prosperity and an economy of quality, and the last pillar representing is commitment to peace both in and outside of Europe. The EU was specifically built to be a peace project for war, with no threats of occupation attached. In fact, its biggest threat was to be involved not in the country at all. The European project offers nation states the opportunity for protection of democracy against other world powers. Mr. Heron made clear that the past 7 years highlighted that federal Europe was a better Europe, and the relationship between specific countries and the EU should be up to its citizens. After taking a point of information from Mr. Russell Nairn, Mr. Heron closed his speech by asking the House in its broad political diversity to vote for the proposition. After this, we also welcomed another maiden speaker, Ms. Shania Kirk, to open for the opposition, opening her speech by warning the House against EU nationalism and its dangers. Ms. Kirk argued in its human nature to attach itself to a wider identity, but we need to think more carefully over what it means to be a nation state and a bigger national identity. This will suppress diversity in all forms for these countries. Ms. Kirk painted an image of a single flag, a single anthem, and a single currency. An EU superstate would go beyond the original intention, creating complete sovereignty at a regional level. Tensions would not disappear but magnified by the integration into the single national identity drawn on language divides in Belgium as an example. The attraction comes from your personal identity having lost its national and romanticization of sorts. Mr. Conor McArdle then interjected with the POI. So POI for freshers is kind of like a point of information, so you can put your hand up during a speech and be like, "Hi, I disagree with you." And counting that federation is actually being confident in your national identity, celebrating the diversity within it. Ms. Kirkland goes on to highlight the danger of a single nationality creating an us and them effect to those outside of the superstate, pushing national interest in front of general human life. The second speaker for the proposition, Mr. Cormac Donegan, began with rebuttal, stating that the model in which the proposition proposed follows a federal law. With the cooperation of multiple nationalities under a wider system, Mr. Donegan went on to display the current problems within the European Union in which a federal Europe would attempt to solve, beginning with the concept of national identity. He argues that it has an inclusionary and exclusionary point. For you to be something, there has to be something you are not, and that's not inherently a bad thing. Mr. Donegan stated that in recent years, the expression national identity has manifested in closed-mindedness. However, federalism, I can say that word a lot this today, would not create multiple national identities and instead would force members to live at all concerned instead of those of a dominant country. Mr. Donegan wraps up by saying they are not saying to create a bad super state, but instead offer a solution to the status quo where equality is not thriving. Where things are now are not where they have been and not where they're always going to be. Life is an ongoing evolution with maps and lines, and he went on a whole metaphor about like you can erase the lines on the map, and it was very inspiring at the time. Mr. Ryan, who will be speaking second for the opposition, opened by stating there can be no democratic choice against the European treaties, highlighting that to support the side of opposition you do not need to inherently support Brexit. Mr. Hoey explains that there is not a united European ethos people identify with, which is comparable to like some American patriotism. And part of this is because the EU project is met with increasing scepticism. Mr. Hoey draws an example between the difference between him and his colleague, Mr. Hussable, looking that he would rather have a government he disagreed with than a king. And this metaphorically, like EU super state was a king, again, very clever at the time. Mr. Hoey then goes on to push the local government rather than transferring up the ranks, and provided us with some poetry to celebrate the last debate, and to highlight fundamentally that the super state would not work because Europe is divided. Mr. Hoey finishes by reiterating that you cannot have a federal state without this being forced or making other countries seem uncomfortable. Mr. Cameron Barlow began his closing remarks for the proposition by stating that the Good Friday Agreement gave a birthright to all people in Northern Ireland to identify as their nations, bringing a stable yet complex identity to the people of NI. However, some member states do not like this ambiguity. Mr. McFarland argues that for climate change, the economic crises, there are challenges that nation states must not tackle on their own, and Europe is the strong voice we need to guide us through these challenges. Mr. McFarland promotes the idea of improvement over abandonment of European structures and proposes the success of democratic and international government is both ideal and more reachable. He ended on the hashtag humble brag that he does indeed know the European national anthem, emphasising we need to believe in a better time where we will all want the European national anthem. Closing for the opposition, Mr. Chris Hull broke out the EU flag and commented he was disappointed that the floors in the Great Hall were not as slippy as he had hoped, particularly because he wore his best socks for this very occasion. Mr. Hubble continued on his track by beginning with a poem stating, I didn't have anything written down at all, so I googled things about Europe. Mr. Hubble moves on to call out the proposition for never mentioning what it actually takes to create a state. You need an identity, you need to be European, and that is something that not a lot of people want to be. He states that there is a rising well of nationalism and this poses a very real danger. He also points out that a super state will probably have democracy, but it will still be the same parties we have now, who just aren't as good. He closed the debate by practicing witchy ASMR in the house, whispering to us softly, endless lyrics. Questions were then asked by Mr. Russell Mayer, Mr. Matthew Sullivan, Mr. Tom McGuinness, Mr. Thomas Copeland, Mr. Matthew Bryce, and Mr. Auckland McSparn. Without the final vote was taken from the evening on the motion, this House would create an EU super state. There were 7 votes for the proposition, 13 votes for the opposition, and 14 votes for the abstention. And with that, we ended the year the way we began, no one truly knowing what was going on. But before we parted ways, we gifted to President Emeritus Hugh Dobbin the present of a lifetime and an infinity gauntlet. I recommend going back and listening to the recording because with more oohs and ahs and a little less banging, the 170 session ended in noises of pure euphoria. Then I take the minutes as read.
Aye.
For what I presume going to be the first of a series of wonderful minutes, but now something we all love: housekeeping. So, a bit about society to begin with. And I bet you're thinking, Matthew Bradley, why are you and Chloe wearing gowns? Because I've noticed I've been at this society. This is my 3rd year at this. Well, this is my 4th year at the society, and this has never been addressed. Why are we wearing gowns? And the answer is, we don't know. We just know that we are. But we do have a long history. It's kind of like a debating society tradition. So you may notice on our logo, which is here, it says 1850 at the bottom. The Litter Effect was founded by a man called Edwin Lawrence Godkin in 1850, just a few months after Queen's was founded. There's actually a plaque of his face in the black and white hall, which I like to wave to and sometimes talk to. People say I'm weird, but I'm not. So, that's a wee bit about the history. If you want to know more, we've got a history page on the website, or you can ask me and I can make something up. As you may have guessed from what we said, the Literary Ethic has a council. I'm just going to run through who they are. If you could put your hand up if you want. When I say who you are, that would be great. So I'm Matthew, I'm the president, I do this. Chloe's the secretary, she does that. We've gone through that. Mr. Matthew Bryson there is the treasurer. That means he handles all of our money and coins and makes sure I don't spend it all on sweets. Then we've got the internal convener, Mr. Russell Nairn, who's there. You will learn about Russell Nairn. He's a wonderful man, and he is in charge of deciding our term card, which we'll get onto shortly. And if you want to speak at a debate, please speak to him. We also send people, if you want, you can go away to a competition, often down south, normally down south, at another university for what's called an intervarsity debate, where you get to debate with speakers from all across the island, and it's a lot of fun, and it is essentially a debating holiday. And that is organised by Ms. Becca McMinn, who is sitting over there. Then we've got our outreach officer. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Sorry, a mini applause for each. So then we've got our outreach officer, Mr. Mark Gilmore, who's sitting. There he is. He is in charge of what we do with schools. We run a schools competition each year where loads of schools come to us and we let them debate against each other. Then we've got a technology officer, Mr. Luke Holmes, who sits there. He is in charge of that microphone, that laptop, and the website. Then we have our training officer, Mr. Alcom McSparrow. Have I missed someone out? You've given me a wee look.
No, it's just you said we're going to applaud every time, not someone individually.
But then nobody applauded, did you? I'm busting my arse up here to make you have a good time. I'm not going to pull your good time out of a hat. You need to contribute yourselves. Just gonna... There we go. Do you know what I was talking before this year? I was told, Matthew, don't do anything too weird. And I've already broken that rule. So here we are. Calm it down, he's second me by fourth week. So, in the role of training officer, the very clappy Mr. Alcom McSparrow, who was jokes clapping, maybe you got that okay. Who will be, if you want to learn how to debate, you want to improve your public speaking, anything like that, you can go to him, he'll be running training workshops, and so if you want to know about debating, Alcom McSparrow. Clap! And then finally, oh there he is, I thought you'd gone. Mr. Colin McArdle, who is our events officer, he's responsible for organising all the events throughout the year, and at the end of the debate, we'll be taking all of you to the pub. So that's great, he's like our local sesh gremlin, so there he is. One person went, well, who did we clap? And I thought, why not? So, I've done council, why am I in game week to week? Here we go. So, we'll have debates every single week. In term time, our next one is, as I said, this house believes the mothers are better off. There are so many more to come. So if you want to see our term card, it is on our Facebook page. Now, into the actual housekeeping stuff, remember to show respect for speakers when they're at the front. So that means if you need to leave the room, please refrain from doing it during a speech, because there's nothing worse than you giving your all the front and someone walking out. It can be a bit disheartening. Please be polite when asking questions. After all, they're here to debate, they're not here necessarily to give their opinion. So please be polite in that aspect. We'll move on to questions later. I notice a few people have got a wee bottle of, a wee cheeky, I know what you're doing, just for the sake of Queens. I'm not saying, yeah, the Coke, the hard stuff. Out of context, that's fantastic. So just, if you've got some of them, maybe keep it subtle. Don't be jumping on the table and challenging someone to a fist fight, that kind of thing. Because in the 50s, that happened. Maybe in the 60s, I'm not sure. And so, if we want the society to be as welcoming as possible, so if somebody is making you uncomfortable, come to any of the council members with their hands, who have their hands up there, and we will make sure that is sorted out. Another wee thing, it's a tiny thing that I'm going to pretend I care about, and it's swearing. We've got a wee rule about swearing, which is, please try not to. It's at my discretion whether you get fined. In the past, the fine was a bottle of port wine. I don't drink. So Chloe, do you like port?
I learned.
So really, I'm thinking this year it'll just be whatever we think's funny.
As a fellow member of council, I adore pork. Please keep that in mind.
I'll say whatever I find funny. So, if only there was a way, so that must be wondering, okay, that's fair enough. We know what happens in a debate, we know what happens outside the debate, we know who who these people are, but what's actually happening this evening. If only there was a nice way of finding out what the plan was for this evening. Oh wow, look at that. So, this is the agenda for the evening. First off, we've got private members' business, which is a chance for all of you to give your opinions and really, talk about the world today. Then we've got President's Questions. The less said about that now, the better. Let's keep that as a surprise. The vote of prior opinion, which is what you think before the debate. The debate itself, they speak, you clap. And then number 6, the pub. Everyone leaves. Come to the pub. I don't drink, lots of people here don't drink, it's more of a social thing. The pub's fun. So without further ado, we're going to move on to private members' business. So if there's anything in the world you want to talk about, if you want to create a discussion, please raise your hand. I would like to say, even if I know you, I will ask your name for the minutes. That just means that in case Chloe forgets someone's name, it's not embarrassing, and in case you're new, or I've forgotten who you are, we know, and it means that new people can get to know our previous membership. So any pieces of private members' business? You, who I don't know.
I don't know either.
Jay Glasgow, that's my name. Those of you who are used to spending time in this august chamber will be aware that there are conspicuous absence of Her Britannic Majesty, our Lord and Sovereign, Queen Elizabeth II, Fide Defensor and Queen of Pop, has been extraordinarily renditioned to a location unknown by persons unknown. And the eagle-eyed among you will have actually noticed that portrait was actually signed by the Queen.
Ooh.
You'll see Elizabeth R, Elizabeth Regina, her signature, and faded ink underneath. I mean, the Queen's nose, because I think I bothered to look. I just wanted to know the House's thoughts on this manifest injustice.
Another rule I pointed out. So for council members, obviously everyone knows I know who you are. So if you could say your name, your role, and just because I'm a demon of chaos, one interesting fact about yourself. Here we go. So you, who I don't know.
Mr. President, thank you. My name is Alton McSquire. I am 22 years old. I am a training officer and I am the oldest of 7 absolute tortures. Almost surprising that I'm doing this a bit. So, yes. However, I have noticed too that the picture of Her Majesty of Great Britain is missing, and I think it's only apt that we replace it with a true titan and being a picture of Michael D. Higgins in her chest.
Oh, we're having a bit of spice tonight. Yes, sir.
You don't know me, my name's Connor. I'm quite shy. We actually did address this recently. There was a vote taken by one of the people of the Liverific, and there was 4 candidates to replace Her Majesty: Prince Philip, Michael Collins, Daniel O'Donnell, and Julian from UTV. I'm pleased to announce that Julian from UTV has been selected.
Ask them where it's gone, so we have an answer.
Please do, that would be hilarious.
Right, has anyone actually gone off and looked at it? So there's the nails from where the Queen was, but there were nails in it from before. I want to know who was here previous. Who did the Queen replace?
Who's the king?
I think actually it was people who were pulled to Queens, there was a picture of various vice chancellors around the walls, and then Connor just did that. That was beautiful. Are there any other thoughts on the Queen? Like a Harry Potter painting walking off. Although I don't think the actual paintings walked off. I don't think the paintings just grew legs and walked away. Any other thoughts? Yes?
Do you have to do the whole announcement?
No, it was only for council members. You just need to say it for minutes.
Oh, that. Sorry. Yeah. Actually, I completely forgot.
I'm starting to think maybe the asking people's name thing is becoming distracting, but I'm going to stick with it nonetheless.
Yeah. If the picture's gone, does the Vice Chancellor know something that we don't know about the possibility of the Queen not being present? in Buckingham Palace? Or has somebody else ascended?
She's gone to space!
I would do Illuminati, you know.
Any thoughts on that? Affirmative.
Perhaps. Maybe this is actually just one giant epic Scooby-Doo adventure. And what we have to do is find the thief who stole it.
It was the
Doing
Queen.
holiday.
I could actually hear the plans being made.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Russell Nairn. I am the internal convener, and I was responsible for Princess Diana. The portrait being gone means one of two things. It means either phase one is complete, or it means that some group of miscreants, in a very similar manner to that soft border patrol gang, is trying to move the border towards the south by slowly moving portraits of the queens into different government buildings. I would highly advise Conor McConnell, next time you are in Leinster House, sort of whatever you do there, I assume cooking soup. You can check and see if they have moved the portrait to there and get back to us on that.
Any other thoughts on the mystery of the disappearing monarch? Ooh, I gave it a cool title. I was like, no.
It's like a game title novel.
Yeah, I'm going to write that for next week. I might not, who knows. Any other separate piece of... Do you want to speak about the Queen or something else?
The Queen. He's related to the Queen.
Okay, circles related to the Queen. Can you say
What if you get like a vote just to say our condolences to the Queen just in advance of the plan?
I'm not sure we can legally do that, but I would ask that you declare your name and royal title for the minutes. John MacDonald.
Sorry.
Lord. Any other? Yes.
In a very interesting news article I read about half an hour ago, a man in Siberia, Alexander something or other, a shaman, was recently arrested by Russian police forces during a trek from the very easternmost part of Siberia, which is just there, all the way over to Moscow. He started this journey in March, and he was arrested in a small village, I think about a third of the way along. His plan was to reach Moscow by 2021, I think, and I think the exact word was expel Putin. What is the House's thoughts on shamans coming from the Siberian wilderness and expelling unsavory political characters? Because I think it's a great idea.
I'm not going to lie, 50% of that I was thinking, how is this about the Queen? I was thinking of the Queen, a shaman who was like,
Where do you think the Queen went?
Is he like, yeah, he's healed her reception like another dimension or something? I don't know how shamans work. Oh, you can hand down. That's what I'm saying. Anyone thoughts of the shaman? Yes, right.
Well, I mean, he was already in Siberia, so he won't have terribly far to travel to be like he's being sent.
I've really missed the society of the summer. I really have. Anyone else on the wandering shaman? Yeah.
Simply Rasputin Tech 2.
There we are. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Well, I want to know, and even if this man is a reclusive shaman who lives in the wilderness of Siberia, trying to find the corpses of mammoths that have been long gone to eat, why is it that he wasn't aware of planes that would have gotten to Moscow much quicker? Why did he not walk to an airport, then go?
Yes, I think that's solved into some clarification.
It's actually very simple. If a druid leaves the land, they lose their magic powers.
This is the point in the debate that I love, and it's the bit where I go, is this one of my weird dreams? I'm never sure whether the answer's yes. Yes.
Are we sure this was a shaman and just not a lad's holiday that went horribly wrong?
Same period. Yes,
Hello, I'm back. Well, I actually am a shaman myself. And I was in contact with this shaman through the spirit realm. And it was a terrible misunderstanding, actually. You see, he wasn't going to expel Putin. He was actually a computer scientist, and he was trying to get Excel put in to the Kremlin. And unfortunately, they are very, very adamant Linux users, and they're just not going to let it happen.
Yeah, this is still like one of my weird dreams. Anyone else on the wandering Excel shaman, mystic dimension queen of a doctor?
We got weird really fast.
Yeah. I was like, how many? We took, well into, it's been weird for a good while, so we took well less than half an hour for it to go weird. I think that's, I am personally delighted. I want a round of applause for that. Any other separate bits of private members' business? Anything that's going on in the world? Yes?
I'm Rebecca. I'm the external convener. As Matthew so lovely said, I'm in charge of debating holidays. So probably as a lot of you know, there's a massive global climate strike happening tomorrow. We've one in Belfast in the centre, 12 or something I believe. I'll be there if anyone else is interested. But just some thoughts. Is anyone else going? Is anyone else have any thoughts about it?
Climate strike thoughts? Any thoughts? Yes, you can as well.
It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yes.
So much
I'm Keir Swill. I think that the striking against climate is extremely important, especially considering the fact that the reason why the people have actually started to take climate change seriously is the hubbub it's creating in the general population on Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing. So if we can show more hubbub and get the government to actually do something, because they are the main people who can actually amend climate change, I think it's a great thing.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Jennifer. So I think striking is all very well and good, and it's really important. However, if we strike without making any change to our own habits, is this not the most hypocritical thing in the world we can do?
Any thoughts on that? One of you can fight between yourselves.
Jack Joseph Patton, the 16th. The simple fact is, when we talk about the personal responsibility regards climate change, there's a limit to what people can do within our current system. The simple fact is, we need significant reforms on a large number of these issues, from global corporations, from all our different currently defunct governments. But the simple fact is, I heard this recently actually on Ed Miliband's podcast. The western ice shelf in Antarctica is on the verge of collapse currently. That area of ice alone will cause a 3-meter rise in sea level around the globe, enough to wipe out cities like London, Belfast, a few other different areas. So what I'm asking now is, what can I do to speed this up? Because I really want Middle London.
I love the way we're now 40 minutes in and genocide has already been advocated. Any other thoughts? Yes.
You Bangor lads in trouble.
I'd like to clarify that statement of you Bangor lads. Myself, Miss Ferguson and Mr. Bryson are all from Bangor, so we might be what you refer to as scum. So, Mr. McGill.
I heard that talk about, you know, we can't do this on our own, we have to do significant institutional and structural changes. And it's true, nation states cannot do this on their own. So if only we had some sort of supernatural organisation together to tackle climate change, which we have already done. In fact, we have been doing this the most climate-friendly supernatural organisation anywhere for against the world.
The satire thrown in there. Here we go. We'll take 2 more. Yes.
I was just going to say quite. Why are these things never on a weekend? Driving climate change. But also,
that wouldn't be a strike.
Oh, whatever. If you had them on the Saturdays, or people there at the City Hall, you could probably Try on with that.
I think we're kind of going into less from the whole climate change aspect, more the logistics of someone's event planning. We'll take one more. Yes.
Actually, you see in regards to the Empire Strike happening, is this the one where all the kids are going to be walking out of schools again? Yeah, okay, right, okay, that's cut the bullshit, I'm not going to take the time. What do you call it? Let's be honest, those kids do not care about climate change. On that day, okay? Now, I believe as individuals we should all make a difference when it comes to fighting climate change, but here's the truth. We always want to look at the individual and how they can help. So look at plastic straws. Big example. I love using my plastic straw. I hate paper straws, okay? But we never challenge big multinational corporations on the fact that they guzzle diesel, petrol, gas, coal all the time. But we put it on the individual level. So doing this on an individual level is not actually going to make any massive difference, and we need to do it on a societal level. That's my round over.
Okay. I wasn't going to fine you for that, but because you said you'll take the fine, I'll now choose something that I find funny. So, Mr. Experiment, I'm fining you a packet of biscuits.
Custard creams.
It's not terrible. Yeah.
It works favorite.
Yeah, so packet of biscuits, that'll be it, because I'm just going to make it up, whichever. You're lucky you got one that was easy to get, and not like a mechanical elephant riding on a tricycle with a thing on the top so you can stick something on it and it'll spin. Because I own one of them. I will bring it to a debate if you want to see it. So, any other bits of private members' business before I wrap this up? Any other thoughts? Going once, going twice? No! So that means private members' business? Tick! That's that done! Oh! Look at that! That's what we call a GCSE and ICT I never thought I'd use. So, we then move on. What's this? It's President's Questions. Am I questioning you? No, you're questioning me. What about? Now, because it's one of the first debates, anyone who's new, you can ask me any question about society you want. Everyone else, well, you know what to do. So, just ask me whatever. So, any questions? Wow, I will go for yes.
Mark Gilmore, I'm the outreach officer here, and my fun fact is I like haircuts, no explanation needed. On the subject of biscuits, there's a riff room, I said, finally. We had a debate, what is the best biscuit? So Mr. President, what do you think the best biscuit is? And why is it custard creams?
For those of you who don't know, the Literary Forum is our Facebook group. You get access to that upon becoming a member, and that's where we will share events like event pages, bits of news, and you can all have a wee chat in there. So what is the best biscuit, and why is it custard creams? I'm not a big biscuit eater, but I am a fan of the custard cream. I had a chat with Mr. Sullivan before the debate about this, and I know he will not be happy with this opinion because he said that both ones are better. I don't want to walk into any turf wars here, but I will just say I quite like a custard cream. In fact, the custard creams were bought by, partly from Mark Gilmore, but also because custard creams are fun, and also because they are now a Doctor Who reference. And the more of them I can get in, the better. So, in answer to the question, Doctor Who. Any other questions? Yes?
Alice Gordon. I was wondering, with the big Area 51 raid going on, what are you, Mr. President, going to do to help out our boys in blue heading in there?
I'm more worried about the stuff that I've got stored in there that they're going to find. It's a weird thing that they're storing Area 51, and I love the specificity of them doing a Naruto run, which I'm guessing you want me to demonstrate for those who don't know, which I presume is like this, right, which is, I think, how I would run if I was trying to knock myself out by running into a wall. But, despite the fact we've got a debate on this, I don't actually have many thoughts on it. I think I'm a great lover of chaos, and whatever their prerogative is, if they, got into an electric fence or something, that's their prerogative. Who knows? Anyone else? Yes, you look quite angry.
No, you've actually just reminded me of something.
Oh.
Mr. President, on Facebook a few months ago, there was an event storm the old SU. To which Mr. Nairn put something about that asbestos is our rightful property and we shouldn't heal it, which was rather funny. Would you say that as a society now, that we should, as a group, go and storm the SU because the bureaucrats at Queensfield, in our salary, were the ones who stopped us from storming that SU, and that we should now all march out and storm it?
I wouldn't do it now because we do have a debate to get through, but like, possibly. Yeah, we've got to go to the pub. Pub time.
Why am I doing pub time?
Because you're a pub man. It's your job. Your jobs are events and pub. They're like that's
power with the beers. It is a stereotype. Right?
It is a stereotype. But so for those of you who are going into second year or are in first year and want to experience the old SU, that's the big derelict building right in front of the university. And the asbestos comment is because the first floor of it, to most people, they're like, yeah, this is quite nice. You go up a floor. Why has someone punched holes in this wall? What's this? Why is this staircase quite scary? You go up another floor and you see like a cargo lift from the 1960s. And it's like, oh, I'm scared now. And then you go up to the top floor, and it is, if you've played any horror game released in the past 5 years, that is it. Plus the fact it is, and I'm going to use this word, riddled with asbestos. You can see where they've covered it up. They've just pretty much paper mache over the asbestos. So I'm not sure we do need to storm it. If I'm honest, that building is incredibly fragile. We could probably just stare at it angrily enough and it'll just come crumbling down. Any other questions? Perhaps about society? Yes?
What are your top 5 favourite apps you have on your phone?
Oh, apps I have on my phone. I don't really use my phone that much. I use it for like Facebook, would probably be number 1 for mostly for letterhead stuff. Oh God, I don't really. The Keep Notes app. Oh, here we go. Google Keep. Now, wow, because this is. I didn't think, right, you think it's sad now, the Google Keep Notes app. You think it's sad, and I didn't think it would be this early in the year that I would introduce this to people. But one thing you'll come to know about me very quickly if you speak to me personally for more than about 10 minutes is I have a folder of out-of-context quotations from, I think I've got one from the majority of people that were like a member of the Letterific last year. And I use the Google Keep app to write down these quotes, and I'll see if I can find a few for you. I won't say who they're from, and I'm going to have to censor some of them because some of them are horrific. But there are things like, I know how to destroy you. The only way he couldn't is if he had a titanium penis. That's one. And let's see if there's another one here. Here we go. No, I can't read that. Can't read that. You see how much I'm scrolling here? Can't read that. The Google Keep Notes app. My out-of-context quotes folder is currently nearing 5,000 words. So that's the thing. So that's number 1. Facebook for number 2. For keeping in track with Letterific stuff. So that's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us at QBLitterific. Wow, that's 4 already. And then the 5th app would probably be my soundboard, as it allows me to do this. Any questions? Any other President's questions? Affirmative.
Mr. President, if you could be any famous child, which famous child would you be? It's a motion-specific question.
This is very odd. You see, there are 2 types of President's questions. There are the ones I can answer with something funny off the cuff. Then there are the ones that are like, this is one of the deep philosophical issues of our time. I'm going to have to think about this. If I could be any famous child. I actually don't know any of the cast of Stranger Things because they got loads of money. That's the answer. And if your career was built on a TV series that good, I think, that's solid. Any other final questions before I move on to, you guessed it, wise people? Anything else? I will take, I'll take your two and then maybe one more. That's really sweet. Look at them like deciding between each other who'll speak first.
Mr. President, as you begin your new reign, which world leader do you want to emulate in your presidency from the present or the past?
You asked this last time.
It just didn't make it into the list.
Exactly. But the funny thing is, whoa, calm down. I'm going to answer the question because do you know what? I listened back to the recording of that afterwards to see, what I could improve, what wasn't great, and I heard my answer to that question, and I can't remember what it was. It was very non-committal, and it actually did bother me a bit because, and in the months following, I was actually thinking, what world leader would I aspire to be like? And so I'm thinking it has to be someone that's respected, someone that is talented and capable, someone that is able to entertain significantly, and someone world leader, global. So the only person I could think of was Mr. Worldwide himself, Pitbull. Because Pitbull, he doesn't have what you would call talent, but he makes up for that in sheer volume and excellent lyrics. Who in here has seen the cinematic masterpiece known as Aquaman? Okay, so there's a good few. For those of you who haven't seen the film, I went to see the film on opening day, and I told a few people this, and none of them believed me. There's a moment in the film when Aquaman and Mera are walking out of the ocean onto a sandy beach, and there's like this synth playing, and then you hear, they tried to get rid of me, but something, they just got to deal with it. And then a loud screech, which is what I like to refer to as Pitbull's meeting call. And it then transformed into, from a rap by Pitbull, Flying Over a Desert, a god-awful cover of Africa by Toto. And I'm sitting at the cinema going, I'm going to tell everyone about this, and nobody's going to believe me. I've actually forgotten the question. Are we still on the world leader thing? Yeah. Well, that was a long time. I just find Pitbull fascinating. Any other questions?
So Pitbull's your world leader?
Yeah. Mr. Worldwide. Also, he was Mr. 305, which is the area code for Miami, but he took the 305 worldwide. He said that, I believe, in his song International Love. So, everyone's there going, we've elected a nutter. Any other final president questions? Oh, I think I'm mentally scarred. One final one.
Building on your recent comparison of yourself to the great world leader Pitbull, do you believe you could get any of your family to serve on council without betraying you?
There aren't many to list. Without betraying me, no. My mum's great. Do you want to hear a story about my mum that I promised I wouldn't tell anyone, but she presumed I'd tell people anyway, and she'd be delighted if I told it to this room. Do you want to hear that story?
Yes.
Those of you who know the story. So, after I finished my degree, I'm a master's student, I'm doing English. I finished my degree and was I want to mark this by getting myself something. I'll treat myself after my degree. And so, I went around the shops and I looked for a second-hand Oculus Rift VR headset. And so I eventually found one. It was perfectly shop soiled. I was delighted. And I had it over for a few days, really liked it. And my mum comes in, she wants a go. And I let my mum have a go on one of the demo apps. There's a little alien, she quite liked the alien, that was okay. There's a deer. What's so funny about liking an alien? I was like, we haven't got to the good bit yet, Olcom, which now that went so funny, is probably going to not go down well. But she saw some deer in a field, that was quite sweet. She was on a high building, that was lovely. And then she got to the bit in the demonstration app where you're in a corridor and you hear. And in VR, they track your full body, so you can look anywhere. You can crouch, you can go anywhere, it's really immersive. And my mum was looking the wrong way for the demo. And what she didn't realise was a T-Rex was coming up behind her, and she was so scared by this, she farted out of nervousness. And so, that's the story. I do have video footage, I'm not going to share it. So, there's a story about my mum, and therefore, it answers your question. No. So that's present questions being brought to a close. Tick. And then we move on to the debate itself. So there it is. Tonight's motion is this house would have children. Ooh. Children. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our vote of prior opinion, which is where you get to say what your opinion is coming into the room. So if you believe you would have children and want to vote for the proposition, which is, I'm never off here, so I don't know what side it is. It's really weird, I'm going to sit that side. Here's the thing, I was sitting where Chloe's sitting all year last year. I'm still used to, during the debate, last time I chaired the debate, I was thinking, I should be typing. And the whole way through it was really disorientating. So, forgive me. So the proposition, which is these lovely people here, if you would have children, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hands up high and 5'6". 6. Yeah. And anyone who wants to vote for the opposition, i.e. you wouldn't have children, please raise your hands and say nay. Nay. Like a horse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Same to
I'm too young. And for those of you who have no opinion, don't care, or are otherwise ambivalent, please raise your hands and say nay. Yes. Madam Secretary, would you please read back the votes?
Okay, so there are 16 votes for the proposition, 6 votes for the opposition, and yes, 18 abstentions. So far, the proposition has it.
The proposition has it for the vote of prior opinion. Let's clap. Before that change, for those of you who know, do you have an opportunity to do it? There was a Twitter poll earlier in the week, and the opposition had it. So,
yeah.
Ooh.
Online people do not want to have kids.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're too busy looking at memes and dabbling and stuff.
There's going to be a commercial on every week, so go on and vote there too, and give us a follow.
Yes. At QB Letterific. Do it. Do it. I will hunt you down. But for those of you who are new, I'm just going to check that this is working. It is not. You may be wondering, right, what happens in the debate? So I've made this slide because a visual aid can really improve your presentation. The rules of debate is proposition versus opposition, as we have, as we've said. That means yes, be no, and it will alternate between the speakers. There'll be 7-minute speeches, which is a good amount of time to say an opinion. The first and last minutes are what we call protected time, which means that no questions can be asked. What? Questions? Yes, if you have an incredibly brief question for the speaker to clarify a point, please raise your hand and say on that point, and they can either accept or decline. Please do not hound the speaker with questions. If they decline, please wait a while, and if they've answered a question, please wait a while after that. It just means that people aren't, standing up there trying to give a speech and people going, ask me, ask me, ask me. It just makes it a lot easier. So, if in protected time, that is signified, the first minute being protected, the end of that first minute will be signified by the gavel banging, which will sound like this. Ooh. And then, when it goes into the last minute of protected time, the gavel will bang again, which will sound like this. And that's getting flipped in. If it fires off the end of the desk, oh no. And then when the 7 minutes are up, you will hear the gavel bang twice. And that will mean, please wrap up. Now, if I feel that you have gone on for an amount of time that is, pushing it a bit, and this is, of course, my own personal opinion, you will hear this noise. So, you'll hear that one. That's a new rule for this year. There we go. So, it's debate time. Who will win? Who will lose? I don't know, neither do you. So, it gives me great pleasure to welcome up the first speaker for the proposition, Mr. Oakham McSparrow. It's just
absolutely brilliant seeing that vote of prior opinion there, so I'm not going to look like a real idiot. So, members of the Literific, today we are here to discuss having children. Now, I'm aware that as a group of young people, it's very easy for us to sit here and go, oh God, no. I don't want to have children at all. I know that I have on countless occasions cracked the joke about how my mother was diagnosed with my brother. I need to say though, it is exceptionally easy to make light of this debate, making jokes and funny remarks. However, if we take time to think, it's obvious that the benefits of having children vastly outweigh its detractors. We as a proposition will be looking at this from two main points of view. Firstly, is it beneficial for society as a whole to have children? We as a proposition adamantly believe that having children will improve our society. Secondly, we will be arguing that it is beneficial for individuals to have children for their own lives, with children being personally enriching, an experience which becomes a labour, but it's a labour of love, and which there is reward at the end of it. But moving back to the benefits of society as a whole, in the present day, we are obsessed with this idea of postmodernism and its trendy little brother, neoliberalism. We have become obsessed with only caring for ourselves, for only thinking how we can gain more and how we can line our own pockets, how we can step on more people to reach our end goals. Yet through the act of having children, this societal model of selfishness is broken. Children are expensive, they're messy, they're smelly, but they are our future. They will care for us one day. In a true cycle of life, where we once changed our nappies, they will change ours. Moving away from the comical statements, which did not get the laugh I was hoping it was going to get, children for society as a whole mean that a certain selflessness needs to be adopted, an air of looking to the future to a better world. Children, the act of having children, totally goes against this postmodern, only caring about yourself ideology, but it means putting others first. Is that not in itself a worthy reason to have children? To change our society, to change the way it operates for the better? My granddad used to say that I feel sorry for you young people, you're going to have to sort out everything, which was a massive oversimplification, but it highlights what children are and what they represent. The future. They are a simple inevitability, an inevitability that should not be run away from, but rather embraced. If we look at the past 100 years in this island, there's been one recurring trend. Each generation is wealthier than their parents' generation. Now, through saying we would not have children, we are totally abandoning this idea. We're saying we would rather hoard the wealth for ourselves. This is short-sighted and naive. The opposition can say, through not having children, they're being responsible. This means that the wealth of the world today will not be spread as wide for the future. This is true. But not having children limits something that we humans fundamentally thrive on. Competition. Children put into us a human urge for competition, a need to provide for them. We need to provide for them, for our wealth to pass on to them, to make their lives better. To know that when we die, yes.
So you're revolving this entire thing around this notion of the reason to have children is because it makes us want to make the world better. But surely because of the fact we are facing all these problems, environmentalism being the main issue currently, that is an indicative thing of your point being wrong, because people are instead just concerned about themselves and indicating about what they want.
I will actually be addressing the environment in about 2 paragraphs' time. However, what you're saying about only caring about ourselves, surely through the act of having children, if you rear a child, if you love the child, that is you being inherently selfless and looking to make the world a better place for your child. Now, Russell, I'm going to presume at some stage in your life you're going to want to be a father and you want to have little mini Russells running around. However, I would be amazed if you're going, oh yes, son, here, I want you to grow up in a dystopia when you grow up. Nobody thinks that way. They want the world better for their children. And through the act of having children, you're going to want to make the world a better place. Now, where was my point? Because I lost it. Children better us. We strive to improve, to make their lives better. So from an individualistic point of view, children are not just beneficial, but a necessity to improve us. They make us a better version of ourselves. I would also like to add the opposition of presuming that wealth and material goods lead to more happiness. Children are a burden, they will claim. They will claim we are happier when we're wealthier. However, if we look, the evidence suggests the contrary. Are the rich truly happy? How many pop stars do you see resort to harmful narcotics to enjoy life? How many politicians are functioning alcoholics? 1 second. And how many billionaires become isolated weirdos? Yes, come.
I think that's a bit of a stretch to be like the rich are not happy, and how many pop stars either how many people do you know?
Well, actually, one of the most frequent studies done of happiness shows that Finland, the country with a net wealth of about the equivalent of maybe decent civil service here, is the happiest in the entire world.
Well, I'd like to remind everyone you're back before.
No, wealth does not bring about happiness. A certain amount of wealth can make you comfortable and enjoy the occasional luxury, but family and people what truly bring happiness. Has anyone seen the movie Citizen Kane? Apart from Mark, who said he got earlier. No one's seen Citizen Kane. Oh, there you go. Charles Foster Kane's last words were Rosebud, which refers to the sleigh he used to play with. The happiest time in his life isn't when he owns countless material goods, possesses the wealth of the world, but what he truly misses are the times when he was a child surrounded by his family. No. Now, the opposition may claim that through having children in the modern world, this is inherently bad for our future, that it is irresponsible. They will undoubtedly point out that the current environmental problems our planet faces and claim that having children is irresponsible in the present world. This is complete and total rubbish. They will talk about the amount of carbon the average child produces, giving some horrendous sounding statistic to us. What they're failing to realise, however, is that countries with the highest birth rates, Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, do little to no harm to the environment. So clearly, you should. Do little to no harm to the environment. So clearly, birth rates have little to no effect on the. I lost my place. Clearly, birth rates have little to no effect on the world's carbon output, but rather how we live our lives in the current Western worlds. The sports car we drive, the home heating oil we burn, the devices we charge, all of these are what's harming the environment, not the actual act of having children. Now, would it be more sensible for us to change the way we live and have a more sustainable way of living, rather than making an impulse decision to not have children based on some popular theories which don't stand up to scrutiny? To conclude, children are the future. To say you wouldn't have them is simply not forward thinking. Our society fundamentally relies on thinking of the next generation. How will they improve upon the world we have? For us, children are a necessity. They make us strive to become a better version of ourselves. To the individual that will do anything to provide for them, not to have children is inherently foolish and short-sighted. So I urge you to vote with the proposition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
For your speech. I'd now like to welcome up to the front to open for the opposition, Ms. Beth McSorley.
Alton made a few interesting points there. So, thank you. I think the only one of at all relevancy and good point was the fact that he actually typed the speech in advance. I don't mind my hand. Sorry. But anyway, good evening all, new members, old members, anyone who has actually signed up yet. My name's Beth, and for fun fact about me, I am one of the 50% of women these days in the UK and the Western world who don't actually have kids. For some people, the decision not to have children, saying that makes me sound profoundly village, is a personal decision and is for personal reasons. But, as will be addressed tonight, there are also many, many big picture reasons why you, as a member here and why the bigger, wider world, should not have children, and why you should vote against the motion to have children. Now, specifically, we're talking tonight about having your own biological children. We will address fostering and adoption later on. Now, I did a quick Google earlier on about the reasons why not to have children, and it's terrifying. First of all, poor relationship satisfaction is reported after birth of your offspring. You will be sleep deprived for up to 18 years. You will have chronic unhappiness amongst people who have kids. There's also a lack of money. I couldn't find a definitive quote. There's between £121,000 per year and $450,000 over the course of 18 years to raise a child. There's inevitable overpopulation, scarcity of resources, famine, drought, environmental catastrophe, and an exponentially increasing death rate. Why bring such abundant joy into the world for it just to die anyway? On that
Right, okay, I don't know if you did like much like basic biology and like stuff in school. Like, you know, we're all gonna just die anyway, so are. Like, you know, like, what's the point there? Like, you know.
My point is, like, we're going to touch all the scarcity of resources and lack of water and environmental concerns. But if you were to sideline it just a wee bit, there's not exactly very many graves like that. No, we're looking at birth pulse quickly. Anyway, there is a light at the end of this gaping, cavernous tunnel of doom. Make no analogies there for the general. Why not dreaming in bedroom? What on that sleep mask? Don't have sex, and don't call that drug. Evidently, we cannot focus on all of these reasons tonight, and I've probably left out a few that don't include death rates. Instead, we'll focus on select ones, whilst providing alternatives to anyone who does not, who does actually want a child and has a maternal instinct, and we'll provide reasons for adoption, fostering, and other alternatives.
Thank you, Ryan. So you've brought up a lot of points in a global scale. However, the context of the debate is this house. Now, there's a certain futility to the idea that okay, well, if we as a house do not have children, we can somehow address these problems. How do you propose that this could happen?
Sorry.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Been a while. Okay, so in essence, you're saying that this house would not have children in order to address these issues. However, if we don't, other people will. So it's utterly futile whether this house does or doesn't.
Here I will get on to that point about adoption and fostering, provided alternative routes and second chances for children in the care system and for children who perhaps don't have a family in which to live in. Anyway, on my first point, somebody said to me, don't make it too aggressively feminist. Now, here's a quote for you. Motherhood is the ultimate apparatus of patriarchy. Anyway, so although you may argue that such an opinion is very aggressively feminist, it stands in opposition to the traditional perception of women's place as a wife and mother. Arguably, a walking incubator to carry and birth the next generation of carbon-producing offspring. Growing up, I went to an all-girls school, and whether it was media, grammars, or my very, very lovely RA teachers, they kept bringing up this image that one day you'll find a man, they threw you over his shoulder, they walked in the area of the way, and you eventually like walk out off into the sunset with a billion different kids behind you.
Guys, come on, disruption is going on, please stop. Sorry, Beth.
Well, if that was the truth and it was so lovely and great and everything, why is the birth rate decreasing so exponentially? And I googled some reasons for this too. Did you know that 12% of divorced women cite their child as the sole reason for said divorce? And I didn't quite know what this alluded to, but 96% of women said that they were quote-unquote less pleased with their vaginas for 12 months after birth. Anyway, Google also threw up multiple videos of births, and they were terrible. Now, if I would simplify this debate into 5 minutes, I would throw up one more every minute on this one. And all women would not want to try it. The tearing, the screaming, and at the end of it, what have you got? Just another screaming, pooping, stinking baby. And I noticed Altman kept referring to children as this labour of love. And as a literal interpretation, such a labour of love brings great traumatic childbirth experiences, PTSD, and postpartum depression for so many women, millions and millions of them. And apparently this brings them on to the happiest time of their life. Well, we were told school time was the happiest time of your life. How did that work out? But anyway, I also have a big spiel on the environment and stuff, but I don't think I'll get into that too much. But anyway, quickly, tomorrow is World Climate Strike Day, and obviously it was brought up earlier. There's been a bit of confusion about it in the proposition speech, but quite frankly, although we would like to blame other people and other parts of the world for the environment going the way it is, and ice caps melting, polar bears dying and stuff, quite frankly, the largest carbon footprint is actually manifested from ourselves in the Western world, whether that's oil fields or humans. In fact, everyday practices like driving a car, one American child, another American, produces the same CO2 as 106 Asian children. So every time a person pops a straw, they're birthing just another consumer of fossil fuels, limited resources, and producer of greenhouse gases. So, paint a quick picture, don't have kids, and vote for the opposition tonight.
I'd like to thank Ms. Woodsoley very much for her speech. I think we're all scarred by some of the imagery from the beginning.
So much content for the minutes, it's going to be great.
I would like to say if you were affected by any of the issues that were brought up in that speech, Queen's does offer 4 free counselling sessions. So that's actually just good advice. Didn't expect that of me, did you? And you know my friends did. So, to continue the debate for the proposition, please welcome Ms. Emma Crosby-Levis.
Alright, it's been a long time, so have a little patience with me. I'm trying to get the whole English vibe again. It's been hard, but I'm trying. Okay? So, first of all, hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary folks. I have this whole introduction about how my perspective changed on this subject of having children, but I want to go into what Beth said because I find as a feminist, I find some things quite disturbing, if I'm allowed to say that. Because as we said, we have 2 main arguments, which are the individual responsibility and the responsibility of society as a whole. So, talking about the individual responsibility, Beth said something really interesting about relationship satisfaction dropping because of children, but she never actually explained the nexus between having children and that satisfaction actually dropping. So my question as a feminist is, are actually the children the one who are guilty of this, or that we are making relationships working in a wrong way? I think because one example of this is actually how many children are being in adoption. So the divorce thing, it's not happening because of children. That nexus doesn't exist. It's happening because we're doing relationships wrong, and that's where feminism should be one important part of our argument. So that's talking about individual responsibility in that sense. As a social concept, I would like to talk about how this society really needs new blood and that can make a new world. Because this feminism that I'm talking about, the feminism that wants to have children, it's one where those values need to be taught to other people. Okay, I'm really struggling with this English thing, but I'll go out with this. Children are the future, okay? That's what Alton said. So, as Alton explained, the decision of having children will not only benefit the individuals, but the society as a whole. I'm going to give you an example of this, right? So, okay, I thought to myself, when I saw this debate happening, I was just like, okay, I'm 23 years old, I'm a mature student from Queen's University perspective, so what am I going to do? And I thought to myself, okay, we're supposed to have children, but women, in reality, we have loads of pressure in this sense. So what we really need to change is the system. And how do we change the system? Having children and teaching them those values. So as an example, I will mention Greta Thunberg, okay? So this lady is only 15 and she has made a lot for the world, probably more than any of us in this room. I'm sorry, but it's true. So yeah, we're not going to live 100 years, even though I would love to. But the only way that we're going to be able to change the world is not only by going to a strike tomorrow and protesting for things to change. No, we need to step into action. And those individual actions are inherently going to pass through the decision of having children. Your point, yeah?
Pretty much what your point is, right? We're going to make this society better by having our own biological children and teaching them those values. What is stopping you from taking people from, say, kids who have lost their parents, kids who were given up for adoption? What stops you from taking people from that system and teaching them those values?
Actually, nothing is stopping from that, but it's my personal decision. I see what you did there. So yeah, you made a good point. But even though I could take care of those children, I want to pass my own genes and my own genetics into other people, because we're only here for, I'm sorry, but nutrition, reproduction, and then we're dead. So if you take one of those three basic things, we're only left with eating and death. That sounds quite dreadful, doesn't it? So yeah. Yeah, that's true. So okay. One second. So wait a second. Okay, so the opposition arguments can be translated into this, okay? We hate freshers, we hate new faces. We are alone, and we like being that way. On the other hand, our arguments are based on living a fulfilling existence, because if you take the reproduction thing out of the equation of our biology, then you only have nutrition and death. You don't even have binds. Okay, yeah, we have.
I think reducing your entire life down to you have sex, you're born, you die is very reductive of what you can do in your life. For example, your life you can have a job, great.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but one point.
From having children.
Yeah, one point that I wanted to start to say is Kira, I'm sorry. When you reach 40, life is boring, okay? You've done so many things. You are 40, you're old. You definitely want some new action into that equation, so children is the way to go in that sense. Hopefully we all have, and this is not something about the Spanish case, I hope that here happens as well. Hopefully we all have this auntie or uncle who is 60, doesn't have kids and lives alone. Yeah, their whole life is based on wine and guess what, other people's children, because life is boring at 50, you know? So basically, yeah, getting the English thing again, sorry. So yeah, for doing a conclusion out of this, because I ran out of minutes, I can be a selfish person sometimes, okay? I think we all can be in that sense. And children are the only way for a person like me to think about the future as a whole. You need to have someone to take care of, love, teach values to. So for the first time, for a selfish person like me, for a selfish person, people like we all are, having children is to put someone's life before our own. And this is a change we all need in order to stop thinking only about ourselves and in order to change our society. So please vote for the proposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma, for your speech. I think we can all agree there was a lot to unpack there. Speaking second for the opposition to possibly unpack, who knows, is Mr. Taylor Cook.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, everyone that technical rainbow in between. A bit of rebuttal to the first speaker was not all children and parents are good. Children can grow up and be bad, they can be ignorant, they can be destructive, and parents can be equally as bad. You can raise a child and teach them the wrong things. We've seen here across Northern Ireland some parents teach their children the wrong values, so there's no way to define that. I'm rolling with it. I'll get on to spreading the wealth, environment, and overpopulation in a minute to kind of address the rest of your points. So my speech, I'm going to go through kind of the economic problems of having a child, because they're not cheap. Now we'll go through adoption, overpopulation, and kind of the effect on the world, but I'm going to kind of like scale it down to this room and then kind of show the impacts on the wider world. So firstly, economics. Kids are very expensive, between babysitters, university, meds, food, clothes, etc. It on average costs $233,610 to raise a child from birth to the age of 17. No. That's just the 17. If you take in university, it goes up to, I think, beyond 250,000. And that's just a lot of financial pressure at the minute. We say we're not in a kind of economic crisis. We definitely are. More people are worse off than they've ever been. Since to take on the wealth distribution, since 1980, the global economy increased by 380%. However, people living on less than $5 a day has gone up to 1.1 billion from less than
on that point.
Yes.
Yeah, but wealth inequality and people starving was also a thing in 9th century Europe, but people still had children then.
The issue is, with the population, massive population boom from 1980 to now, you have more people, but you've less resources. Managed to burn through more resources now than you ever have. The UN indicated that 850 million people are now starving or malnourished, and 1.1 billion are going without safe, clean drinking water. It's increasing because there's more people around and there's less resources. We've essentially initiated a battle of attrition with our own planet. There's resources, we're taking them up, and we're hoping they just don't run out. Yeah, whatever.
Surely the fact that we actually have seen the population expansion illustrates the fact that we now have a world that we have people who are not living in poverty have access to adequate medical care, adequate food resources as well. So that population growth is a direct result of that. So the continuation of that will be response to that.
The growth in population, you think, oh yeah, there must be more resources going around, but there are people getting poorer, there's more people under the poverty line, there's still more people starving, and as I said, the UN, less people drink water, still drink more than they had before. And the other thing is, with population, at the minute I counted there's like 36 people in this room, like you just counted it. Like, let's say everyone in this room had 3 kids, that goes up to 99, it's going to get very cramped in this room. We're going to need to expand, we take over more space, we've done that. But we're also endangering the planet doing that. We've endangered more animals. Look what we've done to the Amazon. We were burning down whole sections of forest for farms and homes. Yeah, go ahead. Welcome.
I mean, like, yeah, I'm not going to deny that the plight of the Amazon rainforest is truly tragic. I would be 100% honest, if you put 100 turtles in front of me and said light them on fire, that they'll die, I'd light them up like that. So, like, you know, I think the trying to equivocate animals to human lives is fundamentally morally flawed and reprehensible.
I'm not going to eat your pearls. But the issue is that human expansion is destroying the planet. We tried, that's what the whole Amazon fire started. It was people burning down whole sections of forest for human expansion. They went too far and burned down way too much. And the issue of that, though, is the WWF's founder, Sir Peter Scott, spoke behind me, so I could, in 2010, when we first set up the WWF, our objective was to save endangered species from extinction, but we have failed in this matter completely. We haven't managed to save a single species. If only we had put all that money into condoms, we might have actually done some good. So the idea was that the founder of WWF took the entire way of human expansion, taking over, hunting, poaching, expanding for farmland for McDonald's in the Amazon, which is ridiculous. Things like that have cost so much. Yes, I know.
Okay. So we're all talking about those environmental issues, but beforehand we were talking about how the governments were the ones responsible about it. So instead of putting all that blame on having children, why don't we think about how those children can have different values and changing those governments?
The issue with it is the government and corporations are a supply and demand industry. The more people, the more demand, the more they need to supply. Therefore, they're going to expand more to meet that demand. My other point is, I'll move on from economics and overpopulation to adoption. In 2017, research was done that 72,670 children in the UK were up for adoption or in care, which is up from 2,200 from 2016. Although even though there was this huge increase in children actually being up for adoption rates have fallen by 1,110
On that point.
to 4,350. And the issue of that is, yes, going from Ryan Neal, if we do from people in this room, we're only 36 people, we can't really do a lot. But the University of Harvard concluded that for every child who does well, they have one adult that they have a close relationship with too. And although it is only 36 people, it would make a huge impact to 36 kids who end up getting adopted. If we take that to the wider society, the amount of people who don't have kids, who can't have kids, and who go through other means like IVF, if they went ahead and adopted instead of going through that, then they would actually save a lot more kids' lives. Because the statistic was that if you don't have that human kind of adult relationship that develops your views, that helps you through life, you are more than likely going to develop mental issues, you're going to grow up and be worse off, you're going to the poverty line, and you have an increased risk of actually dying at a very young age. Yeah, I think that's the point. The final point, because I've only 10 seconds and I'm stuff to say, is how are you having kids inconveniences me? I went way too serious. I was supposed to lighten it up way too much ago, and I lost my train of thought. So basically, kids, loud, noisy, messy. Imagine me minding my own business, getting ready for the hell of a journey that's the 273 from here to Strabane. 2.5 hours of uncomfortable seats, limited legroom for someone of my height, and just people in a very small bus. And then you bringing your spawn onto the bus that quickly turns into a demigorgon for 5 minutes for the next hour, and I have to listen to it until you get off at like Dungannon or something. So yes, your kids can inconvenience me, and that's why you should support the opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirk. Just a couple of things I forgot to say earlier. I should fine you for the use of an F-bomb at the beginning of the speech, but because it's the first debate, I'm going to cancel Alkins. I'm just not going to care about swearing today. Calm yourselves. That wasn't me saying you can swear. That was me saying I will turn a blind eye. Like the way policemen turn a blind eye if you've got a legal number plate, because there's a lot of them around. That was just a personal grievance anyway.
I didn't know what I said.
Part of it. Right.
You did say that word.
Calm down. Because of that, Alkin, your fine's back. You owe a packet of biscuits.
Might not win the debate.
Yes, chocolate bourbons, boys requested.
What?
Chocolate bourbon biscuits.
Oh, I have to order next week. It's going to be great. Mary, can you go tell me what that is? I don't know.
I can show you if you like.
Yeah, please. That doesn't help. I have to package.
Whoa! To wrap up for the proposition, it is Mr. Mark Gilmore.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to see, let me just say, it's a pleasure to see so many fresh faces. And isn't that what we're gathered here to talk about tonight? Fresh faces. I'm going to start off a bit of rebuttal, and I'll go into my points. I'll just go over my points briefly. They are legacy and fulfillment, evolution, and religious argument as well, and also the third one, essential to the survival of the human race, which is really a rebuttal. First off, Beth, personal reasons. I believe that having children is incredibly important because people need something to focus on that's bigger than themselves. I think there is this, as Owen mentioned, this very neoliberal, selfish notion that we can focus on our careers, we can focus on our own goals and ambitions, but transferring our careers, our own goals onto a child is something that really we not ought to do, we shouldn't do. She then went on to mention, why bring a bundle of joy into the world for it just to die anyway? This issue isn't particularly with children. This issue with the odd that we see is an issue with humanity itself. It's a bit of a hole in logic there. Everyone will die, and in order to prevent that, we need to keep humanity going. Another quote from Beth, motherhood is the ultimate tool of the patriarchy. Did I cover that down right? Yeah. I mean, this is kind of feminism turned on its head. Is this really feminism? Is it really feminism to challenge mothers who want to raise a child? Is it really feminism to force people into careers when they'd rather raise a child? I don't believe so. I believe that motherhood is the ultimate tool, not of the patriarchy, but of humankind. Yes.
Is it also feminism to bash people who don't want to have children? Is it also feminism to bash people who go, I don't want to have kids because of personal financial reasons or bodily reasons? So there is a flip side that you're
there is a flip side. And the flip side is, we are not forcing anyone to have children tonight. Thank you very much. I think that's a very important distinction that we haven't really touched upon. It might seem a bit obvious, but there we are. Without forcing anyone to have children, we're not saying that you can't have a long and happy life if you don't have children. But what we are saying
on that point
is that it is much harder to do so. Yes, Russell.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, your side has on multiple occasions said that you can't have a long and happy life without children, such as lines like, life is boring when you're 50.
Russell, much harder to do so. Anyway, I should really speed up here. She then went on to say that it's not the happiest time of your life to have a child. But I think this is, if you ask any parent, anywhere, candidly, were you right to have your child? They will say it was worth all the heartache, it was worth all the problems that Beth, no thank you, brought up and mentioned. And the environmental argument, of course, which was what Beth finished with. And as Alkin previously mentioned, this has very little to do with life itself, with children itself, and everything to do with how we handle the environment. If we bring children into the world, we can teach them how they should handle the environment. Just a wee statistic for you. A return flight to Australia has double the carbon emissions of the entire life expectancy of a person from Mali. So we can handle carbon emissions, but we need to be able to teach people to do it responsibly. Yes, Colin?
To be fair, they're from Mali, which is probably not very highly producing of carbon fuels as well.
That's an excellent point, but I think that's an excellent point. But I believe that this is a model for which we can strive environmentally by reducing our carbon footprint. Moving on then to the second opposition speaker, Tiernan. Children grow up to be disruptive. That's what we're not disputing that. What we're saying is that we have a responsibility, we have a prerogative to teach our children the right values. And if you believe that you can teach your children the right values, then I think that says a lot more about yourself than it does about the principle of teaching children. Children are expensive, that's very true. But you cannot put a price on a child. You can't, we here in the proposition believe that you can't fundamentally put monetary value on human life. And that's what the opposition are very clearly trying to do. Tiernan mentioned a battle for resources. Of course we need to live more sustainably, but that is everyone's responsibility who is alive to handle. We have more than enough resources going around, but what we are, oh goodness, need to speak up. What we're really bad at is distributing them properly. You mentioned the battle of the space. I'll just, you know what? I'll just skip the rest of Chairman. I'm going to 6 minutes. Sorry, Chairman. 6 minutes have gone. So on to these points then of my own. Children are incredible for legacy. They are incredible for fulfillment. And the proposition have tried multiple times tonight to challenge this notion that children don't bring happiness. Sometimes happiness amounts to the amount of meaning that can be derived from a child, the legacy that they leave behind. It basically comes down to this. When you are 40, as was previously mentioned by your life is dull, and in this age of distraction, we have forgotten how important having children is. To conclude then, society isn't forcing you to have children, human nature is. And when you bring it down to the bare bones, to evolution, to the very reason why we're here today, it is basically eat, sleep, pass on our genes. And what we're saying tonight, as the proposition, please pass on your genes. Please ensure the survival of the human race by going and making little versions of yourselves that can make the world a better place. Very wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gilmore, for your speech. I'm not sure any of us will be forgetting that ending anytime soon. And now, to conclude the debate, our final speaker, Ms. Kara Swale.
And I'm being even fancier and I'm using my phone as my template for my speech tonight. So first thing I'm going to say is the prop has said this thing about having children as being the ultimate selfless act. The ultimate selfless act that brings these beings into the world that you can instill all your very positive values in, and they will grow up and lead an amazing life and save our planet by being, by choosing to be as ecologically beneficial to our planet as possible, which I think, for a start, is extremely optimistic, and is part of this general thing I see for our society that is told to anybody who is thinking of having children. They constantly think of the benefits, and what our side is trying to do is open your eyes a bit and teach you that it is difficult having a child. Sometimes it's not illegal.
On that point,
go for it.
I deny that it is not difficult having a child. We never said that. However, we say that the act of having children is fundamentally looking for a better future, and every single human being has it in their very core to look for a better future, to improve their lives and their children's. To go against that's against human nature.
I think you're being very optimistic for human nature. Second thing I would say is, which I was addressing, is this notion of you're having a child, so that means you're having a selfless act because you're putting all your resources into them. But you can do that without having biological children. You can do that by choosing to not have biological children and putting your own resources and time and care and love into children that have been abandoned. That have been abandoned to a system that is overflowing with them. Because our society has been taught you need to have children to feel fulfilled, to pass on your legacy. But I think the ultimate selfless act that you can do is to go down to one of those centres. Go for it.
So you talked there about how our society has given us this societal and cultural notion that we need to have children for fulfillment. So then I would just wonder how you would reconcile that with the fact that in many African countries, particularly Kenya and Uganda, they have far more on average children than we do in the Western world, where our societal influence wouldn't be so prevalent.
Sorry, we're taking 8 minutes, please.
My name, I'm humble.
Well, with Kenya and those kind of elements, they have a lot of children because of infant mortality rates would be higher than us, and also they do have the same notion of you need to have children to pass on your genes and maybe work the farm and stuff. but keeping in the context of this house and maybe branching it out. And also, I think it's the ultimate selfless act, because pretty much you are taking a child and you are giving them an opportunity in their life. You're giving them that care and support that they need to flourish. And even if, no thank you, and even if even if you're one of those people that doesn't want children, you can even choose to foster a child for a couple of months. And even that can help them. Like I knew a wonderful woman called Pat, who she was a lovely woman, I loved her that one bit. Every single Christmas she used to choose to bring a bunch of foster kids to her house to have Christmas dinner, and they would stay at her house for a week. And even if she didn't have kids, she would have helped those kids. And so many people who don't have biological children choose to adopt kids, and they can and so many people who can't have biological children adopt kids, and maybe even those who can have biological children adopt kids and can do everything that the proposition is saying you can do by having children.
On that one?
No, thank you. And also, I'm going to emphasize that having children does have its issues that maybe you wouldn't have with adopting a child. Purely for the fact that giving birth is a risky process for a woman. It can leave you permanently disfigured. It can, like for example, I read a story online, which is a common thing that can happen when you give birth. The fact that this is getting graphic, but pretty much what can end up happening is your vagina can break so badly that you end up becoming not being able to control when you pass your own urine, for example, and that's a common problem that's associated. No, thank you. And risk when you actually give birth, and also the fact that there are financial pressures. So if you are a struggling student, you have to put your priorities elsewhere. And it is a real thing that people need to talk about. That maybe you can't afford this anymore. That maybe you can't go out with your friends as much. I'm not saying that, choosing all the energy to go into a child is necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's a real sacrifice that people actually have to think about when they have a child, and no thank you, that isn't really addressed in popular culture. It's not really talked about that you may be permanently disfigured from having a child. It's not talked about that your child may grow up, even if you are trying your best, into someone that you're not proud of, that may do the world bad. I'm just saying that if anyone has a child, or if anyone chooses to adopt, that kind of thing, you have to think about this. You can't just say, alright, it is ultimately going to benefit the planet. Because that's assuming that everybody's child in here will personally choose to not go on a flight. That every person's child in this room will live the most climately beneficial that they can be, which is realistically what is not going to happen. There are going to be carbon guzzling, resource guzzling little people that will add to the growing climate problems that we are experiencing today. And if we choose to adopt instead of creating our own children, then we are going to help others while also keeping the numbers down. So maybe our climate problems will decrease. And that is why I believe that you should vote for our side. Because ultimately, there are problems with giving birth. There are problems with giving birth. There are other options, such as adoption, which gives a child a chance at a life and happiness. And third, you can have those amazing benefits of biologically having a child by adopting. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Well, for your speech. We've had some excellent speeches tonight, so can we have a round of applause for all of our speakers? So, this is the bit where the debate is brought to you, the people. So if you've got a question for the proposition, which is these people here, please raise your hand.
State your names, please.
And yes, remember to state your names for the minutes. Yes.
Mary Dibble. For the proposition to majority boys, technically speaking, y'all are actually capable of having children. So what would you say to your voice having merit in the debate?
Oh, do you want to say this? I'll take it. I think it's important to, first of all, address that having children is something that requires both parents, and it is essential for the human race, as I have said many, many times. It is not something that we should pawn off on one gender. It is something we should be all involved in, and I think it's quite divisive when we pawn off that kind of having children on one gender. I firstly also, I'd like to say that adoption has been used as an alternative tonight. I really don't think, I'm sorry I'm only addressing this now, but I really don't think that is in the spirit of the debate. I think if you ask anyone who had adoptive children, whether they had children, they would say yes. So I think it is much more in line with the proposition, the adoptive argument, but that's all I'll say.
First of all, it is part of the debate because the definition is biological children. So that, well, that was...
Point of order briefly.
Yes.
Mark, I did send you a big wall of text which clarified that your side of the debate was in fact talking about biological children.
Yes.
So first clarifying for the room, a point of order is essentially an intervention about the rules of the debate. It's not used essentially to push in a point of information. Russell used it perfectly there. Go ahead, Karen, sorry.
So, as I said, that is why it is relevant to talk about adoption. First of all, I'd say that men do have a voice in this debate because until women can have children themselves, which is a science that is happening, men are a part in the birth making in the process. So I say that they have a choice, they have an option in this debate as well, and I think most people should have a voice in any really debate. I'd say.
So, do we have any questions for the opposition? Well, the people here used to this. Yes, can you take the influence?
Matthew Green. Just in regards to the opposition, you spoke a lot, obviously, about not having children and this has not have children. Surely that has a wider effect and impact on this kind of paternalistic and maternalistic attitude. So if you move that towards adoption, surely we'd see a wider societal kind of shift away from that. So adoption itself would suffer from the hands of a lack of having children, and therefore a societal attitude towards children itself.
Sorry, can you repeat?
So I'm saying you've argued against the having children, but then you've used the argument of adoption as kind of a bypass to that.
Yeah.
If we do argue against having children within society, surely then a societal shift changes about paternal aspects and maternal aspects. That's
Okay. The reason why I brought in adoption while also talking about personal issues with having children, it's kind of giving, the way we talked about was we were essentially trying to cover everybody. So those who maybe could be swayed towards not having children, we were trying to give them, reasons why not. But those people who literally cannot shake that maternal instinct that really want to have children, but we're pretty much saying that adoption is an option adoption is an option. So that's pretty much why we were attacking those two sides, if that makes sense, and trying to reconcile them. With the paternal instinct in society, pretty much we were arguing that the paternal instinct has led to this massive overpopulation issue, and that is why we would say that it would be better spent maybe dealing with the children that we have maybe left behind that have suffered at the hands of fate, and maybe decrease the population, and that would benefit us.
Proposition to respond?
Right, I want to address like about 5 or 6 different points here. Okay,
Keep it
one,
fairly brief.
the world is not actually suffering from an overpopulation issue at the minute. Our world is consisting of a population of over 12 billion people. We're currently on 7.6 billion. If you actually go to places like Greenland, it's a person every 10 miles. So there's plenty of space that you just have to conglomerate in particularly economically advantageous areas. Point number 2 I want to make is that you do not convince me in any way that we shouldn't have children, but rather we need to be pumping a lot more money into women's health care and the adoption services to make them more efficient. And I want to just say, in relation to your point about adoption in general, there's actually no rule that stops people from who have biological children from also adopting. So they are actually options that are available for you in this situation. But we're simply saying that we think it is societally beneficial for us to have biological children, as is what people have been doing since what really the dawn of time. So yeah.
Any abstaining questions? So this is a question which could be, it's not a question for the proposition, it's not a question for the opposition, because believe me, we've had trouble before, people get a really sneaky opposition one in again.
Oh, that you love those ones.
I absolutely despise them. So, if you want to ask an abstaining question, which is a question which is kind of to both and neither side, so essentially throwing an idea out there, please raise your hand. Wag's hands up. Yes.
Ryan Hoey. We've talked a lot about tonight about how the impact on the environment of having children, and in the film, in the Avengers films, Thanos wipes out half the universe for environmental reasons, and I was just wondering whether the proposition see him as a bad guy and the opposition see him as a good guy.
Haven't seen it.
I've heard some weird stuff this evening. I have to say, I'm having the time of my life. Proposition to respond.
This is really weird. I was having this exact same conversation the other day about the Avengers film. This is something that's really interesting, which I actually was thinking about the movie Avengers Endgame. Which really, I was about to say Stalin. Thanos goes off and becomes an organic farmer at the end of it, and he's sort of like there as a wee hut and all, and he's sort of like, you know, living his best life and all that. I sort of got this. Did some right-wing US politician like tell Marvel, by the way, you've got to present green politics. The only way to do that is wipe out half the population. But I want to fundamentally say that I do see Thanos very much as a villain in the Avengers movies. However, I think the overarching point of this is that no, to create a sustainable environment, we do not need to do a metaphorical snap and get rid of half the population, but rather we need to actually change the way in which we conduct ourselves as people. So I mentioned things like driving cars, when we could get electric cars. The actual technology for electric planes, which make up about 15% of the world's carbon emissions, currently exists. So it does. It's just because planes are built for about a 40-year lifespan, they haven't actually implemented, but for the next 10, 15 years, we're going to see the next generation of planes being predominantly electric. So it's more things we do at wide scale, the change in the actual individual act of children. I hope that answers the rest of it.
What would you do with your response?
It's a bit tricky, yeah, he does some pretty evil stuff, but you know, he throws a girl off a cliff and kills her, it's kind of hard to justify that, but it depends who he gets rid of, you know. If it's like NA conservatives, the people will be discontinued like vanilla Coke, you know, things like that would get rid of, then I'd fully support him, like,
I just want to point out, at the front here, I have to be completely apolitical. What's the vanilla Coke?
The people discontinued.
Go to a sweet shop. So we're going to have to be fairly brief as we are running a wee bit over, but I'm happy to do that because I think we've got a good debate going. So any questions for the proposition? Yes.
Okay, we're going to get involved in it, but you should get handed this so because that's what I've been hearing for the proposition tonight. It's this element of argument in the 1960s is that we know better, you're likely to be fulfilled by having children, so you should encourage yourself to act in this way. I haven't heard any concrete evidence in regards to, rather than this fulfillment of life, that why you should have children and how you should go about that in that manner in regards to forcing that idea upon people. Is it forced upon people, or how would you influence them in society?
Okay, first of all, you need to trust us, okay? So, yeah, basically what I wanted to say, and I haven't, like, I didn't do, like, my point wasn't clear enough. With the whole thing of feminism, we're seeing that more and more women are taking the responsibility of, like, not having children in that sense. So what we're basically saying is that it's probably better to engage into a healthier relationship, into a healthier way of living, and into a healthier way of having children. So, healthy is nice, you know, healthy is fine. So trust us, because our evidence is correct. Does that make sense? Yeah? Facts.
Facts. Opposition to respond.
Again, very optimistic. Pretty much the whole concept that the proposition is saying that, again, the fact that we have to, that everyone, that there's enough resources, we all just need to use them well. That's presuming that everyone will use them well. And realistically, what we've seen is throughout years, we've been given this mantra of you need to improve and you need to use your resources better. Yet as we see today, that hasn't worked. So why would it work for the future generation? So we're presuming that basically everyone will live ecologically, will be ecologically beneficial to the world, which realistically will not happen. And our side has actually given proper reasons why maybe having children is the best idea. Financial strain, pressure on your own body, the fact that there are other options that probably are better for the environment. So yeah, our side has actually given reasons.
Any questions from opposition? Yes.
So both the proposition, Ryan Campbell again, both the proposition and the opposition both reference feminism briefly. I just wondered that perhaps the opposition was maybe proposing a sort of faux or fake feminism, because surely feminism embraces all aspects of women, including their motherhood, and surely feminism wants more female leaders and people in female CEOs, but surely we can only ascertain that goal if more females are actually born and more people have children and have more females, so that population is increased and it's not left where currently is or decreases further.
When I was researching for this debate, I tried to look up like a definition of feminism that would like work into my argument and stuff. But what I found was throughout the debate for this, and it's been held across the world in many places, feminism and having children in multiple eras and times and places has different meanings for different people. And for some people, motherhood is a great part of their own femininity and feminism. However, for a lot of people, and it links back to Connor's question actually about Devil Era in the 60s, feminism has this great idea of the right to choice. And yes, it's brought in with the abortion debates and different things, the right to choose. But we would argue that you should have the right to choose not to have children in the first place. And then that is from a purely feminist standpoint. The fact that after birth control became available freely in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and the North, the birth rate dropped quite drastically, showing that women were choosing not to have children, thus opposing the motion for the Zealand.
Response?
Oh.
You don't have to. You were nominated by another member.
Yeah, sorry, it's just that I'm really struggling with language as well. So anyways, the whole feminism thing, yeah, the rap, I agree with Webb in this one, in that sense. But I think that nowadays feminism is focusing pretty much on being the, okay, this is not very controversial. It's really focusing on seeing the man kind of like the source of all the women's problems in a sense, and in reality I really think that feminism is about equality. And that comes to your question in the sense of like how do we how do we really have happy children or less foster children, or I don't know exactly what meant that. So basically, I think that the whole point of the debate in that sense is to really try to have healthier relationships and to really try for men to have responsibilities within the taking care of children. And that's something that our side has been trying to propose all the time, and that's a fact. Men usually nowadays haven't taken care of children as they should have, so in that sense. So yeah, basically our whole point is to bring equality and to bring feminism into that fact, and yeah, basically that's our thing.
Thank you very much. Do we have any abstaining questions? Emphasis on the word abstaining. Yes, right.
Okay. This was originally formulated for the opposition, but I'm going to try and make it quite. I'm going to throw it out there as a fact that I believe rather than a question.
Okay, because I was very yeah, if it is definitely for the opposition, I will go and we will move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what the two sides not believe. The birth rate has been something that's been mentioned in the debate. However, I believe that we have a couple of other issues that don't involve the potentially increasing birth rate. We've also got an increasing population age. So that could be something that's really problematic in terms of environmental issues that were brought up, which has nothing to do with having or not having children. But then, however, this kind of potentially slightly weird notion of infant mortality being very high in third world, air quotes, countries have been brought up as well, when in fact, infant mortality, while still high in many countries, is decreasing. So, throwing that out there to the floor.
Some facts. I will take that. I'll take that there because it's been thrown out. I went for the proposition first, so that's the opposition. The opposition as well.
Pretty much the whole thing about that is an interesting point you're bringing up about the fact that it's not birth rate, it's the which is a fact to play. And I would argue that with basic evolution, we are taught we are kind of programmed to not live very long in the basic wild. And since we have, through our own brains, increased our life expectancy, we are still pumping out babies, as it were, as if we still had that low mortality, as if we still had that low death age. And that's why I would argue that we should maybe adjust and think, right, since we're living longer, we're going to have more mouths to feed for a longer period of time. So maybe we need to take the birth rate down a notch to account for that. And that is an interesting point about the fact that the infant mortality that's high is getting lower. And that is because of technological benefits, because that means that there's more better access to healthcare and that kind of thing. But yeah, in the context of this debate, I would pretty much say that we should have less weans in general to account for the fact that we are living longer and have more mouths to feed for us longer period of time.
I think when your solution to climate change is don't exist, I think that's a problem. I think what has been exhibited by the opposition here tonight is very much the Scrooge mentality. It is screw the children because we need to decrease the surplus population. I think that is very worrying. I think whenever the opposition say that Famos was right, I think that is also very worrying. I think what we're seeing from the opposition is when we question to have children is in essence, questioning our right to exist ourselves. And in that, we are starting the branch that we're sitting on. We are denying humanity from increasing, and we are putting an end to the progress that we have made since the history of our ancestors.
Thank you very much. That's it. That's the debate done. Massive standing question done. I don't want us to go too much more, but it's time for a vote. Think of the children. I literally want you to think of the children. So, it's just as before, only this is a vote on speaker abilities. Which side you thought argued the case best? Because after all, debating is about convincing people. So if you think the proposition spoke best, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye.
No, currently we're sitting on my sofa.
Yes. Just a reminder to put your hands up really high because I am 5'6". So, you know. So, if you want to vote for the opposition, you think the opposition spoke better, please raise your hands and say nay. Yeah, it was on the And it's our favourite, the abstentions. And remember, this doesn't mean you actually want to vote for the proposition. It doesn't mean you actually want to vote for the opposition. It means you do not want to vote for either, or you could vote for both. If that makes sense. If you have no opinion, if you think they spoke equally well or equally terribly, please raise your hands and say nay.
Nay.
Secretary, would you please read back the vote on speaker ability?
Mr. President, on the motion this House would have children, proposition have 16 votes, opposition have 6 votes, and abstentions have 10. Proposition has it.
The proposition has it, everyone. Congratulations, proposition. So, we're not finished yet, as the slideshow doth say. So, before we go, there's a couple of things I want everyone to take a note of. When I bang the gavel and adjourn the meeting, I would like everyone to vacate the room. Our events officer, Mr. Conor McGardle, will be outside, possibly waving, possibly looking suave, who knows, and he will take you to Lavery's pub, the mystical lab where we convene after the debates to have a pint or something non-alcoholic, have a chat. If you're new, I encourage you to come there. Great chance to chat to us, great chance to chat to fellow members, and it really is the social heart of the society. So when I bang the gavel, do that. If you want to speak to Mr. Russell Nairn, who will be up here with My Surface, I believe, which is on the ground, very well hidden. You're going to move there's a laptop there. If you want to sign up to speak, I would encourage you to sign up. The best way to find out if it is something for you is to speak at a debate. So really, that should be something you consider. He's got the term card on, that will be great. So, yeah. If you think it's fun,
perhaps sign-ups should be saved for when people have term cards distributed to them, so they can actually check things and I can give them out to people.
that would be a good call. You cannot sign up to speak this week. You're not to sign up.
You can sign up to speak if you get the term card up on your phone and come talk to me, but I don't have term cards to give out currently because we haven't got them printed off.
I misunderstood what Russell meant. Yes, go on to speak to Russell if you want to know. So, anything else I need to consider? Yes, speakers, when I bang the gavel, come up for a photograph, very quick, and council, stay behind to pack up. For those who go to the pub, yeah, here we go. I declare this meeting